Hey, beautiful, happy, healthy women. Welcome here. Welcome to the Coach's Corner. We are back and we are so excited to chat with you guys today. For those of you who don't know us, my name is Meg Hepner. I'm the branch director in South Surrey. I'm also a life coach and the host of the podcast, The Art of Being Human. And I am joined today by my beautiful trailblazers, Rita, Whitney. Why don't you guys introduce yourself for those who are watching this video for the first time or maybe don't know you guys as well.
Amrita?
Okay, I'll go first. Hello, everyone. So this is Amrita here. I'm a habit and health coach. What I do is I help you break bad habits and build healthy, sustainable ones. So I predominantly help people who struggle with maintaining consistency in their routines by taking step-by-step action and building the right habits to take you closer to your goals. And yeah, I'm a trailblazer with South Surrey, and I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. Whitney, how about you?
I am Whitney. I am also a trailblazer here at South Surrey. I am a certified health and life coach as well as a nutritionist, and I work a lot with people who have autoimmune conditions and chronic illness with regards to diet, lifestyle, and getting the mindset components down pat so they can live a healthy, normal life.
I love that. I love that. Awesome. And it's just been so wonderful having you guys, here in the South Surrey branch, and also having you guys as a part of the larger Happy Healthy Women family, just because what you offer is so valuable. And I think that it's such an important thing to be able to talk about, hey, how do I show up in this world the best way that I possibly can? And I know you guys are so into that conversation, so I'm so excited. So for those of you who are watching this for the first time, we pop on here to really answer questions that you might have always wanted to ask a coach. So if you have a question and you go, gosh, I've always just wanted to ask someone this and hear, some different perspectives on it, pop your question in the chat, whatever it is, whether it's health, whether it's habit, whether it's mindset. And next month when we're back, we'll answer it. So make sure you do that. If you've ever had a question, which I know so many of us do, right? Like if you're talking with girlfriends or whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, I wish I knew, that's the question to put in the chat. And we will talk about it here and give some fresh perspective, maybe something you've never heard before, or an affirmation of something you already know. So we did this last month where we just sort of introduced ourselves and we got some questions that were really fascinating. And I thought very cutting edge, because the situation we're in the world right now is the world needs the feminine and it needs empowered feminine energy to come in and make the changes that our world needs. And the questions were perfectly in alignment with that. And so the first question we got from our last video was, how do you bring your feminine energy into your business? So how do you show up as an entrepreneur and not fall into that masculine template that most of us know pretty well, but really stay true to your nature if your nature is a feminine nature? And ladies, I would love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I don't mind starting. So I guess I've always considered myself more on the masculine energy side. I like structure. I like a little bit of analytics. I like to do things a certain way and expect a certain outcome. And so I've brought that into my business with my calendaring, my scheduling, the way that I do things. And what I have been doing is finding balance by taking time in my day to meditate. I do 2 15-minute meditations a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. My daughter has been a bit of an inspiration because I even would dress fairly masculine and neutral throughout my life, but she, out of nowhere, is like this super girly girl. So I'm like, as I start to, buy new clothing items, how can I do that like with a feminine eye? Potentially as the weather warms up, maybe I'll wear some dresses. Like these are subtle things where I think when we try to overanalyze, like what can I do in my business to be more feminine? It's like, why don't we just like look outside of our business and see how those things are impacting our everyday life? And then the creative process in and of itself is a feminine energy. So we're all creators in our businesses. So if we can just look, we're already being feminine. Like we don't really have to try. We just need to bring awareness to it.
I really love that, because sometimes it's so easy to fall into this, well, where do I need to do more? Where do I need to do more, right? Instead of going, well, where am I already? And then how do I just expand that? So I think that's beautiful. And Rita, how about you?
Yeah, so going back to that question, right? How to bring the feminine energy into the entrepreneurial world. I'm sure it's going to be different for different people, but how I see that is, again, I'm not very familiar with the feminine and the masculine energy part, but what I feel like more of, from what I understand, is feminine energy being more loving, caring, compassionate, serving. We need to remember that being entrepreneurs is not just about making money and getting success and being like this boss babe and like that kind of stuff, but it's more of like because that's what I see on social media everywhere, like, do you want to be like this and like that, right? I feel it's more of like, what, do your thing, like be in your space, focus more on serving people, sharing your love, sharing everything that you've got. Like it could be in your business, it could be your family, your energy, your food, like just the basic stuff, right? And if we bring that kind of energy that we share with our kids or our husbands or our family into our business also, where we are more focused on like serving the clients or doing things for them and not just thinking about, oh, he paid me only this much, so I'm only going to give this much of my service, like not being that kind of very structured, but use that energy to serve more people and share your love and compassion to the world, like not just in business but also in other areas. I think that's what we should embody more, because I feel if we do that and we give that energy to the universe, we are going to receive it. And maybe it's not with money, but we're going to receive it in like so many other ways.
Yeah, I love that, because there's such a we can fall into, if we look at sort of the patriarchal model of the world, bottom line, profit, right? I don't know about you, but every once in a while I'll get these emails going like, hey, don't you want to make $1 gazillion this month? Here's how you can do it. And I'm like, there's something about that doesn't sit right. And I often think of it as, that's maybe a more masculine model, maybe a more patriarchal model. No judgment, but just kind of my opinion. And it just doesn't sit right with me. And so one of the things that I've had to train myself to do, because I grew up in a very masculine home. I have 3 brothers, like everything was just very like masculine in the home that I grew up in. Now I have just sons. And so it's like constantly kind of put into this masculine energy. Is I really have to remember to check in with myself and go, if it doesn't feel right to me, it doesn't matter how smart it sounds or how much of the experts are telling me to do it, it's not right for me, because most of the models out there are masculine models. And so then to cultivate that value of curiosity, of going like, okay, if I don't have to believe this as truth, right? If it doesn't sit right with me, can I get curious about what does? And really just begin to explore and look at, if I were to just get really creative in this, what would come up for me? And then I play with it and play with it and play with it until it becomes what does feel right to me. But all of us have this sort of, I always call it the thunk of truth. I know that's not a technical term whatsoever, but I'm like, when you're going for an answer, and then you go, oh, that's it. It's like it thunks in your heart or in your stomach, the thunk of truth. And so to really cultivate that curiosity until you get there, this is true for me, and then going in that direction. That to me sort of feels like the way that I embody feminine energy in my business, instead of just going, oh, okay, the experts tell me this, which sort of leads into that next question that came up for us, which is, we talk about being empowered, the empowered feminine. How do you actually step into your power? Which is sort of a great question, because sometimes we can have buzzwords, right? Like vulnerability is a buzzword, but how do you actually do vulnerability, right? Or global impact is a buzzword. Well, how do I actually create a foundation where I could have global impact? So it kind of gets down to the concrete foundational work that you have to do. So what does being empowered mean to you? And how do you step into that empowerment? yourself?
I think it goes along with what you were just saying about awareness, because as humans, like our bodies memorize things, right? So we live a lot like with habits, Amrita, like you have these habits and then things become on autopilot. So we start doing things on autopilot and we can forget a little bit about who we are. Or in a sense, we define who we are and we think it's fixed. So bringing our awareness to the thoughts that are going on in our mind and making decisions that are in alignment with who we are, I think that's the first step to taking our power back. Like first you have to be aware of what's going on in your brain and the way you're showing up in the world. And from there, you can talk about actions from that place.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because you're right. We're habitual people. And if we, and like Amrita does, if you build good habits, fantastic. If you build into your system, this is how I constantly stay aware of what's going on with me and how I'm feeling, that's a fantastic habit. But many of us have picked habits up completely subconsciously. And so our habits are not ones we've created, they're ones we've just adopted from what we've seen. And so I love the fact that you go, can I be aware of what's actually happening here? Right. And I think a sort of congruency with that, or sort of combined with that, is this idea of once I'm aware, can I validate it? Because often what happens is, let's say we have a moment of awareness and then we sabotage ourselves by invalidating it. Oh, I shouldn't feel this way. Oh, it shouldn't, whatever. And all these things that we kind of, this judgment we place on it. And if we can go, look, I just became aware of my feelings or my experience or my thoughts in a new way, and I validate that. And I don't need external validation for it. I don't need someone else to say the fact that you felt that way, that's okay. I can do that myself. I feel like that's another really big step in feeling empowered. I don't need an external source to tell me that my needs, my feelings, my thoughts are okay. I do that for myself. And once I've validated it, then I actually can go with what I need and what the next step is. So to me, I feel like those two things work in conjunction.
Mm-hmm.
Rita, how about you?
Yeah, so stepping into your power. So I totally agree with whatever both of you said about, being aware, like self-awareness. That's like definitely key. And also Meg, about what you said. And I just want to add on to that. So when we become self-aware, and then we are like the gatekeepers of our mind, as in we decide what thoughts we bring in and what our ideas are and what principles we want to follow, then we become this bulletproof person, right? Like we are not going to be affected by like external factors or external things that come and disrupt our routine and disrupt our life. So I think that is also an important part of being like taking over the power and empowering ourselves, and doing that in a way that is authentic to us, like being ourselves and doing it our way where we are comfortable, and not trying to like look like somebody else or like be like that person or talk like that person. So I think adding on to everything that you said, I think I also want to add on to the part that we have to be authentic as well, apart from being the gatekeepers of our mind and bulletproofing ourselves and etc. etc.
Yeah.
And that's where the vulnerability comes in that you mentioned, right? It's like, how do you be vulnerable? Well, you develop that self-trust and that, alignment with yourself where no external factor or no person can break you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made me laugh because I was thinking about a situation when my husband and I first started kind of our self-development journey. A person doesn't realize how reactionary they are. Like, this situation happens outside of me and I react to it. This situation happens outside of me and I react to it, right? We don't realize that, because when we first started our personal development journey, and like, let's be honest, maybe it wasn't when we first started, maybe we were pretty far into it already. But I remember one day we were walking and we were trying to build awareness for ourselves and what we valued. And we asked each other this question. We said, did you live by your own values today? And every day we go, well, here I did, or here I didn't. Here I kind of went back into reactionary thinking. And I'll never forget the first day we went for a walk, kind of how we decompress in the evening. And we asked each other, did you live by your values today, by your values? And my husband said, yes. And we just started to giggle. Like, it was like that, like, we just started to laugh. And it was like this freeing sort of like this energy just sort of broke out like, oh, we did it. We did it. For one day, we lived by our own values. And that feeling became so addictive. Like, I want to live like that every day. And I mean, we had lots of setbacks and sabotaged ourselves and blah, 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 blah. But that feeling of empowerment was so cool to go like, today, I lived the way I really wanted to without folding to external circumstances was an incredible thing. So yeah, totally made me giggle. I love that.
Yeah, Meg, I just wanted to add to that. So that's a very important thing over here is a lot of people are not aware of their values, like, the core values, like what are their principles in their life based on. So I think if anyone's listening to this and you think like, oh, what are my core values? I think it's good to just sit down like for a few days or on the weekend and just think about what are your core values. So that way you can build and start working on your habitual activities throughout the day or your reactions to people and your family or whoever it is around you based on those values. Because if we don't know what our values are, then we will just think that, oh, we're doing everything authentically, but not really, right?
Yeah. And I think when you sit down to do that, you might realize that things that you thought you valued, you actually don't value, and things that you didn't think you valued, you actually do value.
Yeah.
So watch out for that as well. Like,
yeah.
And are
then
you prioritizing something and putting a lot of time into it, but you don't actually value it, or vice versa?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I'd love to hear what you guys think, but sometimes when you look at your values, you have to ask yourself, what makes me value this? Like, why? I don't love the question why, but like in this instance, it might be a good question. Like, why do I value this? And you kind of makes you go back into your history and go like, did I get this value from someone? Like, did someone pass it down to me? And I don't actually need to carry this value anymore.
Yeah.
And then you can do the work, the habitual kind of work of switching it around and living by the value that you desire. Because you're so right. So often, and I think so many people do this, they go, I need to get a great education, I need to have a family, I need to have a home, and I need to, have all these beautiful things. And then you go, but where did you get that idea that you needed that lifestyle or those things in your life? And you go, oh, it's just sort of this story that the culture hands down to me that I believe, and then I go after. But I don't want to do that. I want to travel the world, or I want to not have a family, or whatever. And that's a beautiful process to go through.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's easier said than done, right? Like I see this with my clients with making like diet and lifestyle changes that makes them different from other people, like having to bring their own food to a family gathering or saying no to alcohol or whatever it may be. It sounds easier. So I think in one of our upcoming coaches couches, we can talk more about how to be vulnerable. Like you said it at the beginning, like it's this trendy topic and this word we hear all the time, but how do you actually start that process?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, because we can come up with all kinds of ideas. We can spend time figuring things out, but if we can't implement it because we're so paralyzed with fear of judgment or not fitting in or survival, like how do you get out of that and actually start taking those steps forward?
I think we should, I think we can all share like some of the examples from our life when we did this, Whitney, like how you said, you mentioned, and that would be a good way to like have our listeners understand, oh, okay, so it's not bad to do this. Like, it's okay. Like they've done it, so I can do it too,
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if we don't hear it from anyone, we might think like, oh, it's too silly and they wouldn't do it. But at least if we share like, hey, we've done it and multiple times, then maybe somebody else feels comfortable doing the same, right?
Yeah. I love that. Ladies, thank you so much. Seriously, I love spending time with you. I love hearing your thoughts. They always create more thoughts for me. And then I go, oh, I'm going to think about what they said. And so I really, really appreciate you guys coming on to do this. So listeners, check out these ladies, look them up on Facebook, look them up for their events on Meetup, because they've got great things coming up. And if you have questions about what we talked about today, put them in the comments. If you have questions about vulnerability, which I think will be our topic next time by the sounds of things, put them in the comments and we'll talk about it next time. But before we go, if we have a second, ladies, tell us about the events you have coming up.
So in May, it's going to be toward the end of May, I'm doing another habits workshop. So there'll be more details to come on Facebook.
Fantastic. And you'll see them pop up here on Facebook, on Meetup, on Eventbrite. So people will be able to connect with them. How about for you, Amrita?
Yeah, I have a workshop series coming up called The Morning Routine. So it's going to be held every Monday. I'm going to have it every Monday for the next few months, but definitely not every Monday because there might be some weeks I'll be traveling. So for May, it's going to be on 2nd, 9th, and 16th of May. It's going to be on Monday at 6:30 p.m. till 8 p.m. I know it sounds like morning routine, but why is she doing the evening? Because I want you all to attend it, because I know if I do it in the morning, some of you might be at work and will not be able to attend it. So I'm hosting it in the evening, but it is a routine that you can practice in the mornings.
Fantastic. Awesome. So definitely look for those. And for those of you who are interested in boundaries, we're having a boundaries workshop this month. So check that out. You'll see it again on Facebook or Meetup. Otherwise, ladies, thank you so much for coming today and joining me in this conversation. Thank you for everyone who's watching. We will see you next month. Until then, take good care.
Bye.